What's up, you wonderful people? I just thought that today would be a cool day to do something a little bit different. Here's what I want to do. Super short Sunday. It's not going to be every Sunday, but today that's what it's going to be. I want to talk about frame rates. Two quick caveats. First thing is, it's going to be completely practical, not technical. Like if you came here for a technical video about frame rates, that's not what it is. I'm encouraging a lot of people to start this vlogging thing, and I'm seeing a lot of people doing something that I would do differently, so I'm gonna just tell you what to do. Second thing is, this does come down to preference. This is opinion, all right? So if you disagree with me, that's cool. You can just drop a comment, say I disagree, or we could get in a fight. I'm probably not gonna fight back. I'm just gonna tell you right now, I'm probably not gonna fight back. Here is legitimately the one and only thing you need to know about frame rates in 2018 if you're starting a YouTube channel. It's that 24 frames per second is best. Helicopter. I gotta get on that thing. But at this point, you're probably like, but Cody, what about slow motion? I'm gonna get to that, all right? I'm gonna get to that. A lot of people say frame rate depends on what type of stuff you're shooting, like what the look you wanna go for. I think that 30 frames per second looks like home video. I think that 60 frames per second looks like home video. And YouTube doesn't play back in 120, so don't worry about that. Every single thing that you export should be 24 frames per second. That's what's gonna give you the look that you're desiring. If you want your stuff to look professional, if you like the way Peter McKinnon stuff look, if you like the way my stuff look, it's 24 frames per second. If you can't tell the difference between 30, 60, and 24, just pick 24. Caveat time, if you like the way 30 looks better or 60 looks better, by all means, like put yourself out in that. I want you to do what you like. Like that's what I do. I just want you to actually be choosing it instead of just like defaulting to it. Just because your camera or your editor is defaulting to it. Let's talk about that. I'm back in my car, I have my computer. Let me tell you how to do this. Regardless of what your camera settings are, all right, regardless of what you're shooting at, I want you to be exporting at 24 frames per second. I'm gonna show you how to do it in Final Cut and Adobe Premiere. Real quick, let's get it. Just a reminder, I'm talking in practical terms, not technical terms. This is also literally the first time I'm opening Premiere Pro Creative Cloud on my computer. I just installed it just for this video. Open up Premiere Pro, you got your project open, go to File, boom, New, Sequence, Settings, go down to DSLR, hit Time Base, 23.976 frames per second. Okay, bam. Now you're gonna be exporting a video that has a 24 frame per second look, and that's what you want, all right? Let's do it in Final Cut. File, New, Project. I shoot in 4K, that's the resolution. And then here it says 23.98. Again, practical terms, not technical. Set it to that, hit okay. I'm editing this and I just realized I missed something. When you go to File, New, Project, it might look like this, and then you're like, well, where are those settings? Hit Use Custom Settings. Now we've just created a sequence or a project that has a timeline that is in 24 frames per second. So now you're asking, but Cody, what about what my camera's shooting in? Regardless of what your camera's shooting in, if you drop your footage into a timeline or a sequence that has a 24 frame per second base, then it's gonna export in 24 frames per second, and you're gonna get a look that's much closer to what I like and what I think a lot of people like. But Cody, what about slow motion? I'm glad you asked. I love this. We got the cicadas, I love this. Let's talk about slow motion. Slow motion is, in essence, playing back video in which you've captured more frames than you need, slower than those frames were captured in order to give a slow motion effect, right? So if you're shooting 30 frames per second and you drop that into a 24 frame per second timeline, that means you can slow it down to 80% and still have enough frames to not make the computer like create frames, okay? Same thing goes with 60. If you drop 60 frames per second into 24 frames per second, that means you have enough frames to slow it down to 40% and still not make the computer do anything other than just show you back slower what you gave it. Lastly, 120 frames per second. When you drop that into a 24 frame per second timeline, you can slow it down to 20% because you have that many frames, right? So you're watching it back at 20% of real time. So 30 frames per second, you can drop that down to 80%. 60 frames per second, you can drop that down to 40%. 120 frames per second, you can drop that down to 20%. Those all give you kind of different effects. 80%, we like to use that for weddings, like just to slow it down just a little bit. It gives it like a slightly more romantic, like slightly dreamlike feel. When we slow something down to 40%, That's more, I mean, that's slower than half. So like you're really starting to get into some super slow motion there. You can use it for whatever you want, like mess around with it. 120, that's when you start getting that like super crazy. It makes everything seem steady. It's like you can't even see that fast, right? So it's like you're seeing something different than you could ever see in reality, and that's why I think so many of us are obsessed with it. All of that to say, you're still exporting 24 frames per second. You're still showing my eyeballs 24 pictures every single second. It's just that some of it's in slow motion, some of it's in real time. Your shutter should be 1/250th when you're shooting at 120. I'm sorry, we got technical. Let's get back to practical. I wanna see your stuff. If you like it in 30 or 60, by all means, show it to me in 30 or 60. If you don't care or you don't know, show it to me in 24. That's how you do it, that's how you get it done. Remember, what I want you to do is hit the like button, drop a comment, say you disagree, say you agree, say I don't even care about this stuff, but I guess I'll do 24. Say whatever you wanna say, hit subscribe, and then karate kick that bell, all right? Got it? Let's do it.